Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. I am super excited to have you join us today because we have an amazing guy on the phone we're going to talk to in a second. Tom Bilyeu is the co founder of Quest Nutrition. So, in full disclosure, I've been involved with Quest as an ambassador for the better part of the last 5 years. It's really the only supplement company that I actually use products from anymore in terms of protein powders and bars and their chips and all kinds of other good stuff. Just an amazing company. They're doing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. The company's valued at over a billion, 1,500 employees, and it was all bootstrapped. So it really is an amazing story. And then Tom transitioned out of that company about 6 months ago and is now working full time on a new company called Impact Theory. So we'll spend some time talking about that today. What he does, he's got an interesting approach to it. It's part studio and part content. He's interviewing some of the most amazing people, the world's highest achievers. And I guess let's welcome Tom to the show. Tom, how are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Very, very welcome. So where would you like to start? Would you like to start with Quest or start with Impact Theory?
Good. I'm down to go anywhere that is going to be valuable to your listeners, man. So
Let's start with Quest. I guess that was the first venture in your life. So take us back to the beginning, right? You guys started this company in what year?
We officially founded in 2010, but we began really thinking about it seriously in about 2009. And my partners and I had a company that we did before Quest called Awareness Technologies they founded, I believe, back in 2002 or 2003, and they brought me on as a copywriter right after they had started the company, and that began our journey together.
So you guys started with protein bars, correct?
At Quest, yeah, our first product was protein bars for sure.
So how did you get into that business? Was it you and your co-founders in a kitchen just formulating these bars?
Well, it started as my business partner, Ron, his wife was making bars. My wife was also making me bars just because there was no protein bar on the market that we would eat because either stuff tasted terribly or it tasted great, but it had, a lot of sugar in it. And so we just had them whipping things up at home. And Ron's wife, Shannon, hers started getting really good. And we thought, this is actually pretty interesting. And around that time, we were having, or I'll say I was having, certainly a crisis at Awareness Technologies, and realized that I'd been chasing money for years. I wasn't building something that I believed in or was passionate about, and really, really wanted to tap into something that just made me feel my most alive. And as it turned out, my partners felt the same. And so we were really looking for something that we would love doing, even if we were failing. And for three very different reasons, the answer to that question ended up being nutrition. And Ron is just a nutritional genius. I'm not kidding. Like, this guy is on another planet. And yes, I recognize that I'm highly biased, but it's one of those, he's not my partner, or I don't think he's great because he's my partner. He was my partner because I thought he was great. And that was, it is just incredibly true. And his view on nutrition and human metabolism, he's just obsessed. So for me, I grew up in a morbidly obese family, and I wanted to help them. I wanted to help my mom and my sister quite, to the point. And so here he is, he's doing all this research and studying nutrition, and really understood how to take what his wife was doing from a flavor perspective and really turn it into something, and worked with people to help us commercialize it. And so that's how we started at protein bars specifically, but we always saw ourselves as a food company because, we really understood that if we were going to help my family and the, millions or even billions of people that struggle with food in the same way that they did, that it was going to have to be food that they could choose based on taste, and it happened to be good for them. So our mission right from the jump was to do that, to make food that people could eat, could indulge in, could love, but that we had done the hard work of making sure it was actually good for you from a metabolic standpoint.
So for how long were you guys manufacturing these bars? That's what you started with in the kitchen, and then before you got to a commercial facility?
Well, right away, once we started selling them, you have to be in a commercial facility. So we never sold any of the ones that we made in our own kitchen, but we were renting a commercial kitchen by the hour. It was tiny, and that facility was probably less than like 500 square feet. I mean, it was really quite small. And then we started selling there and doing well, and graduated to 5,000 square feet. And then ultimately that was, like 50,000 square feet, and then 100, then 300. I mean, it's just crazy. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And how did you guys sell these in the beginning? I mean, were you going and knocking on, the front doors of nutrition stores or gyms, or selling online? Where do those early sales come from?
Yeah, it was all online. So we really understood that the way to build the brand in this era was going to be entirely on social media with a web store, and just really focus on building community, getting out there, connecting with people, delivering value. We weren't focusing on money. Obviously, from a business perspective, you have to be cognizant of that. You have to do things in a business heavy way, but we really understood that if we were going to build something that was predicated on value, if we were going to be doing something that made us feel alive, if we were going to really try to help people, and stop the thing that had led me to the crisis, which was just chasing money, that it really needed to be rethought from the ground up. And so we wanted to build a direct relationship with the customer, and to do that, going online first was the obvious answer.
So 5 years ago, when I first got involved with Quest, I remember someone from your company reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be an ambassador. They sent me some free product. I tried it. I loved it. Did a little research, and I realized that the entire fitness community was slowly turning to Quest. They were abandoning whatever products they had been using before and jumping on the Quest train. And you guys have developed an incredible, passionate community of Quest lovers. People that post your bars all over social media. They share it with their friends. Was that part of your strategy to really get the product out there at whatever cost and get people talking about this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our thing was we really believe in the products, and you look at them, and you look at the metabolic response, and, knowing that we were committed to that for the long run, and that we really wanted to shape the entire food industry. It was like, hey, if you've really got a great product, like, your best marketing message ever should be identifying the people who care the most about what they put in their body, give it to them for free, and then say, look, if you hate it, tell people you hate it. And if you love it, tell people you love it. But please say something. And so that was our pitch in the beginning was, here, try it. We think that you'll get it. We think that you'll enjoy it. We think that you'll see results. And then, we did that for a lot of people. And we reached out to a lot of influencers like yourself, and just got them excited about the fact that the product worked and it tasted good. And, and that really began that grassroots groundswell.
And what were the biggest challenges in that growth phase, that 5 years of going from 500 square feet of space all the way up to hundreds of thousands of square feet of space? What were the biggest challenges? And you can include, the fact that you guys were bootstrapped. I mean, that was probably a challenge in itself.
Yeah, there's no question. So cash flow management when you're growing that hard is insanely tricky to manage. And, in many ways, the company is a unique fingerprint of the three people that founded it. And you had Ron, who was just his vision for nutrition and his understanding of human metabolism is just second to none. And then myself, who was focused on really doing sales and marketing in a different way, totally socially driven. And then the guy who really made this all come together, who's often behind the scenes, is Mike. And he was an Iowa farm boy and just knew how to build things. And when we went to contract manufacturers, because originally we didn't plan to be our own manufacturer, we thought we would outsource it. And they all said, it just can't be done. You can't make this product. Once you remove the liquid sugar from the product, it just won't go through the machinery. Gotcha. And it was Mike that looked at the equipment and said, no, I actually think this can be re-engineered and it will work. And he was right. And he actually did. He was the guy, literally with a Sawzall and a blowtorch, cutting this stuff apart and putting it back together and making it work. And it was really incredible. And I remember I was filming him while he did it, because I was like, dude, one day we're going to look back at this and be like, that either was the catastrophe where we broke our own equipment and never could put it back together, or like, this becomes that inflection point. And it really was. It was just an inflection point.
What do 1,400 people at Quest do? I mean, I'm sure some of them work in the warehouse, or some of them, doing the packing and fulfilling and running the machines. I assume you have a huge sales and marketing team. But 1,400 people is a very large company. So maybe how does that break down?
Well, the vast majority of our employees, and by percentage, I'm going to say it's got to be close to like 70% is in manufacturing and fulfillment.
Okay.
And, when you think about just the sheer number of bars that we have to do and that we're doing all of that, that's where the vast majority of your manpower is. And then we do have a reasonably large sales team. I would say it's actually relatively small for our size, but we have a decent amount of people there, a decent amount of people in the marketing team, content creation, all of that stuff. But the bulk is definitely production and fulfillment.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of Jewel and host of the Startup Sense podcast. At Jewel, we help entrepreneurs and startup founders build, launch, and grow their companies by providing superior technology, marketing, and consulting services. We help clients of all sizes, budgets, and industries. We put our clients in the best position to raise capital, grow revenues, hire employees, and maximize their profits. For more information or to set up a free consultation with our team, please visit our website at jool.net. That's JOOL.net. I mean, I'm doing some rough math in my head, and I'm coming up to about 1 million bars a day that you guys are manufacturing. Does that sound right?
When I left, it was north of that.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh my God. And the company is based in California, correct?
Yeah.
And you guys have just one large fulfillment center, and I'm sure you do a lot of business with Europa and bodybuilding.com. So you probably use their warehouses as well, correct?
Yeah. So we have several partners that actually hold inventory, and our warehousing and manufacturing are separated. So, it's a lot of square footage on our side, and then a lot of great partners that also help.
And then when did you guys make the decision to go into retail?
We actually pushed off retail for over a year, and we wanted to do that because the contracts when you're starting are just so one-sided and really can put you in a dangerous situation. And we understood that, if we could build that community and have a direct relationship with the consumer, that ultimately it would get to a critical mass where we'd be able to come to the negotiating table with power and get much more even-handed contracts, which is exactly what happened. But it was probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, when we really started to push into retail.
What do you think the percentage is nowadays of how much business is done online versus in retail?
The vast majority is done in retail.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, I walk into almost any nutrition store or even my gym, really anywhere, any place that sells fitness, and your bars are there, your protein powders, your chips. What are some of the other products? Because I know you guys consider yourselves a food company. What else do you guys make and sell?
Well, you've got, what do we have out in the channels? So that's our protein chips, our protein powders, our protein bars, and then our protein peanut butter cups. And then we also have slightly some a pasta made out of fiber noodles, so from konjac root. But then we also have Quest Labs, and stuff there comes and goes. So it's like I'm not even sure what's in Quest Labs right at this very minute. But we're testing out a whole bunch of really cool things. We've had protein cookies in there. We've had keto products, high fat stuff. Some of which is just without them I would be lost. Like, as somebody who cycles through high protein and keto, so I do 4 days high protein and then 3 days ketogenic. Man, having the mint cups and the peanut butter cups and the keto chocolate bars and all of that stuff is just unbelievably good. And then we also have a line of frozen foods on questketo.com. So things that we're experimenting with that I wouldn't say are exactly on the market yet, but for people in Quest Labs that are diligent and don't mind waiting for things to come out and be tried, that's another way to get some deeper variety.
Awesome. Maybe before we transition over to your new company, just in a couple minutes, tell us, overall, what was your best advice that you could share with us from your 5 or 6 years at Quest? I guess it was even more than that.
Yeah, so I was at Quest for just under 7 years. So
Okay.
it really, the best piece of advice that I can give anybody going into business is know what your why is. Know what you're fighting for. Know exactly who you're trying to deliver value to, what that value is, and lead with that. Like, don't make short-term decisions around money. Make long-term decisions around value. That will change everything about how you do business. Now, that doesn't mean that you can disregard the need for profits. Profits are the fuel that's going to keep your business going. But I think all too often people are making decisions just based on eking every dime of profitability out of their company instead of really thinking about the long-term play of the reputation, of meaning something to people, of making the brand stand for something, of, just doing the right thing by consumers. And in today's hyper-connected social world that we live in, if you're acting like that, if you're really servicing the customer and delivering value, you've got brand protection for the long term. You can actually build in some degree of brand loyalty, which I think is a really important thing. But if you're just focusing on profits, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
So you're the only guest that I've ever had on the show that helped build the company to hundreds of millions of dollars in sales without raising outside capital. I mean, that is an enormous accomplishment. And I don't know if anyone really wants to raise outside capital. I mean, yes, you're getting advice, you're getting, great partners from it, but it's more about the capital that you need to grow. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys have been approached many times over the years from investors. How come you turned it down?
Well, really, in the beginning, there's so many other ways to raise either mezzanine debt or just straight traditional lines of credit, that we had such velocity of sales that going to a bank and saying, okay, here's our historicals. We got this far without taking anything, literally just through cash flow management. And now to expand, to add flavors or more stores or whatever, we need to get a revolving line of credit. We need a larger line of credit. Most people give you a loan against accounts receivable. And so there's really ways to manage that. And it really just comes down to, if people are stagnant and then they're trying to bring in capital to sort of, artificial isn't the right word, but to sort of throw some muscle at growth.
Yeah, right.
That gets a little bit trickier, where you're going to have to go get outside capital. There's more risk. And so you're not going to be able to get it from a traditional bank. So now you got to go the VC route or the private equity route. And so that's why most people do it. But the velocity of sales that we had made it relatively easy for us to get traditional lines of financing. And then we just had, again, going back to Mike, my other partner, just him getting in there and managing the cash flow and just being smart about how we did that. And he crushed it, did an amazing, amazing job. And that got us, to, by the time we ended up taking what I'll call diversification capital, where we just took some equity off the table because we had everything wrapped up in Quest. And, as secure and on the right track as it was, it's like any business, especially food, man, you're just in a precarious situation, one salmonella outbreak or something.
Yeah.
And you may have to call back tens of millions of dollars in product, and you just never know what that can mean for the business. So just knowing that we wanted to protect ourselves from that, we sold a very, very small piece of the company, and but our valuation was so high that it was a very significant, from a dollar standpoint, liquidation moment for us. So that allowed us to diversify. But just through smart cash flow management and traditional financing, we didn't have to bring in a partner.
I mean, I'm currently building a company right now, and I'm hoping to do it the same route that you went. I don't want to raise outside capital and have to give up equity. I'm in the process of trying to do it through credit and debt. And it's a high cash flow business, or will be. So hopefully, I can pull it off to a small degree as to what you guys were able to do. Now let's talk about your new business. So tell us about impact theory.
So people ask me all the time, if you weren't doing Quest, what would you be doing? And my thing was, I always believed that wellness is a 360-degree thing that has to encompass the body and the mind. And so back at Quest, we were not only building a content studio because we believed in social media, but really believed in content and its ability to impact people and to create an understanding of what the brand represents. So wanted to transcend our products and not just be seen as protein bars or protein chips, but really be more than that and let people know that we're trying to help them body and mind. And as we were making more and more investment into that, the show was taking off. It's really exciting for me personally. I loved it and felt like I was making good on that promise. But it just became clear that to make the brand flex and extend and encompass the mind as well as the body, that it was going to take a long-term commitment on the part of the company to really invest a significant capital into getting people to see us as a content studio that didn't just focus on the body. And asking my partners to take that risk with me wasn't necessarily fair. It certainly wasn't intrinsic to them, something that they really wanted to do. So decided to spin that off into a standalone company. And it's called Impact Theory because it's literally my theory on how to have global impact. And, as important as it is, I think, to address the body and the pandemic of the body that we're going through as a species, quite frankly, right now, and watching as countries become more developed and wealthier, they also become more obese and shorten their lifespan. And so, I'm hugely proud of what we're doing at Quest, and I think that's super, super important. But then on the other side, you've got suicide is the leading cause of death among men ages like 14 to 45 or something. In Australia, it's the second leading cause of death here in America. There is a pandemic of the mind as well. And not only that, like even forgetting that for a second, just optimizing the human experience has everything to do with the mind. And so how do we get to that? And so my no bullshit, what would it take to solve that problem? It was very much like the question that we asked back at Quest, and the answer was you had to make food that people could choose based on taste and it happened to be good for them. So leverage behavior, don't try to change it. The same is true of the mind. You want to leverage behavior, don't try to change it. And I know that there's been studies done on this, the way that humans assimilate truly disruptive information is through narrative. And when you think about language, when you think about metaphor, when you think about that, that's what we use to pass on culture. That's what we use to accelerate the growth of culture. And that one of the biggest technological breakthroughs of the modern era was the printing press, because it allowed people to gain access to narrative and knowledge. And, that's really what's driving humanity forward. And I know people engage in narrative in 5 ways: books, comic books, movies, TV shows, and video games. And so if you're going to really try to attack the problem of optimizing the human experience from a mental standpoint, then you're going to be doing in one of or all of those 5 ways and slipping in ideology that's empowering. So I believe that companies are the way that the world sort of defines itself because it makes up so much of the infrastructure. And if you're going to really have influence on the next generation of companies, you have to have influence on the next generation of people. And the way that you do that is through narrative. So we're, to put a really fine point on exactly what we do, we're becoming a studio. And we're, if you think of Disney, I think Disney is the ultimate studio. It was done the best. And it's crazy to me that it's been an example for everyone to learn from since the 1930s. And I feel that nobody's learned the lesson yet. And the real specific lesson of what made Disney as great as it is the studio itself stands for something, and we'll shorthand it to the magic of childhood. And what Disney understood was you had to be consistent within that brand. Now, not a single other studio is consistent from a branding perspective. So what kind of film does Disney make? You know the answer to that. It's going to be family friendly. What kind of film does Paramount make? No idea. It's all across the board. What about Sony? No idea. It's all across the board. What about Universal? No idea. It's all across the board. And so they're not able to do what is called a total merchandising strategy, because the top line brand itself doesn't mean anything. So now it's all about film to film to film, and you have to reinvent yourself with every film. And that's what the problem that I believe we can solve. Just A, we understand it, and then B, we're founding a studio in today's world where what would Disney look like if it were founded today? I think there'd be a huge part of the studio dedicated to social content, which you can see us creating, understanding building community, understanding building that community under the aegis, for lack of an easier word to understand, of the brand identity, which for us is empowerment. So impact theory is all about empowering humans to live their best life, to go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So all of our content will revolve around that, a hero's journey of going from, believing that you can't do something to recognizing that you can. And so that's what we're about.
And you've done about 20 episodes so far. Can you tell us which one of these was maybe your favorite? Maybe that's a hard question to answer, but maybe what some of these guests are talking about in these episodes?
Yeah, definitely. So the episode that we just launched is one of the biggest reactions we've ever got. It's a guy named Jarrett Adams, and he was wrongfully convicted, sent to prison, served almost 10 years, goes to the law library within the prison, begins to learn about law so that he can basically get his case opened and prove his innocence, which he ultimately does. He gets out of jail, promised everyone when he was in prison that he would become an attorney and get out there and get other people out of prison that were wrongfully convicted and try to change the entire system. Actually does it, goes to community college, transfers to a 4-year, gets his degree, gets a scholarship, goes to law school, gets his law degree, ends up clerking in the same court of appeals that he ended up winning his appeal in. I mean, it's just this incredible tale. I mean, you want to talk about a true life hero's journey. Utterly, utterly astonishing. Everything from like a Yoda-like character in prison who tells him to stop being a dumbass and start taking his case seriously and go learn, and he listens. And I mean, it's unbelievable. So that's sort of a perfect example, because that's one where we're actually going to work with him to try to get the rights to his story, to turn it into a comic book, and then hopefully a TV show or a film, and really show our whole strategy from a studio perspective of getting somebody on the show, learning about them, inviting them into our ecosystem, and then building the infrastructure around them to really tell their story in a way that other people can learn from, implement into their own life, and then go on to have their own success.
I mean, you have a wide variety of guests on here. People, former athletes like Terrell Owens and Michael Strahan, Tim Ferriss, who we all know, PhDs, hackers, gold medalists. I mean, musicians. Then just a great. I mean, how do you find these guests?
Well, surround yourself with amazing people. So I'm just a huge, huge believer in partners, and all of our employees here are just absolutely at the top of their game. And we have the guy booking the show, who we call Dr. Finesse. His real name is Christopher McDonald. He is the former booker for Tavis Smiley, for Arsenio Hall, and just has amazing, amazing connections in the industry, and is just always out there with our showrunner, who used to work on Oprah, scouring the planet for amazing people like Jarrett Adams, like Michael Strahan, who's just an incredible human being. And the other bevy of guests that we've had, Amelia Boone, we just did Layla Ali. Her episode hasn't launched yet, but just filmed her yesterday. So yeah, they're out there convincing the world's most amazing people to come on the show.
And how many of these episodes are you publishing a week?
That show, so Impact Theory, the main show, is once a week, but we publish content 7 days a week. So we do everything from Relationship Theory, which is a show that I do with my wife, where we talk about how to work together and live together, and building a business and what that journey has been like together, because she was also part of the founding team at Quest. And then we have After Impact, where we go deeper on the main episodes. We do Startup Theory, where I give startup advice on businesses, and live Q&As. We do 3 different Facebook Live shows a week, and just putting out a ton of quality content.
And are all those other forms of content also available through this website, through the Impact Theory website?
Yeah, so if you want the visual content, you either want to go to YouTube, and my account is Tom Bilyeu, or Facebook, again, at Tom Bilyeu. So the vast majority of the content is launched from my personal pages versus the Impact Theory site, but we do echo some of the content on the site.
Okay, because I'm definitely going to be spending some time watching some of these episodes on Impact Theory, and then I'd certainly love to hear your Startup Theory episodes as well. So one of the questions I want to ask about Quest, and maybe you get asked this a lot, and I have no idea how you're going to answer it, but I'm assuming that some larger food companies have tried to purchase Quest over the years. So why have you guys turned down those offers?
We believe we were the right people to build the business. And, when you're driven by your why, then it comes down to, well, as long as we're the right people to do this, then we should stay at it. And the day that we don't believe that we're the right people to do it, then we would sell. And for us, it's really about that mission, and it's about changing the food supply. It's about really having impact and just doing the things that need to be done. The industry just has to change. It just has to. And, there's so many amazing foods that can be made that are healthy for you, but it's like people have to get into it. So, and I mean that industry wide. So if you think about like why are Quest bars more expensive than, some other bars out there, it's because we use the highest quality ingredients and they're more expensive. Now, why are they more expensive? Because very few people use them. And so it's like at some point, enough people have to be committed to using the best ingredients, regardless of cost, that enough people are using them that the manufacturing industry that's used to source those gets optimized. And so then the costs start to come down, but people only optimize that what they sell a lot, and you only sell a lot of something that's inexpensive. And so it's like you get into this rut of that which is cheap becomes the thing that makes it to market because the customer wants a certain level of in expense, and they're not necessarily savvy enough to understand the difference from a metabolic standpoint. So it's like it's this conundrum of the industry doesn't want to back it because it's not cheap, and so that's why we had to go to a consumer that really gets it. That's why we started with the fitness industry, because they were already making those demands and they were willing to pay a little bit extra to get the best thing. And so now we're just trying to get enough people to be aware of what's actually good for you, and so that we can get more we actually want more companies coming into this, buying the same ingredients, so that begins to bring the price down, so that more people are doing this. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to help my mom and my sister, and I just can't make enough products fast enough for them to only eat our stuff. So we really are trying to create a sea change in the entire food industry.
Do you think the supplement industry needs more oversight?
And I have unease about the government, because here's the truth. Think about how complicated nutrition is. And then you're going to say, okay, we're going to open that up to the government to regulate. I just don't think they know enough about it. So I think inevitably you run into legislation like there for a red hot minute. It looked like people were just going to come crashing down from a legislative standpoint on fat. And then all of a sudden we realized, oh, wait, the sugar lobbies have been trying to vilify fat for decades. And in truth, undamaged fats are amazing and an absolutely critical part of any healthy diet. So had we let legislators have their way, we could have been in dangerous territory. So I think far better for the consumers to get educated, for more companies to be driven by value creation than to try to legislate our way out of this, because I think that tends to slow things down, and I just don't think they have the right answers when it comes to something as complicated and nonlinear as nutritional science.
Yeah, I mean, regulators tend to be behind the curve, and the industry is just growing so fast. I mean, it's 40 or 50 billion dollars now, from what I hear. And there's just a lot of companies out there that aren't doing things as ethical as Quest is. I mean, you guys are certainly the cream of the crop. I mean, what's been the secret to keeping the quality so high, to not having recalls, and just knowing that every product that goes out from your facility, I guess is made with the best ingredients. I mean, I guess the sourcing ingredients is the easy part, but I mean, how do you guys? It just the quality is always just blown me away. And I have a friend that runs labdoor.com, and they test products, and Quest is always at the very top of the list in terms of A rating. So I mean, how have you guys been able to stick with that for all these years?
It comes down to what's your why, right? Like we actually care. We actually, like when I think about my mom and my sister, oh, sure, I might be able to bamboozle people and sell a lot of products, but is that actually going to help my mom and my sister? And, from a metabolic standpoint, and I also want to eat my own products. And so for us, it was just like getting fed up with just chasing money and deciding we're going to build a company that's predicated on value. And as long as you don't sell out your values just to make more money, like in the beginning, it was easy because the company was teeny tiny, and, we were essentially invisible. And so we were just doing it for all the right reasons. And then as you grow, it's like you just stay focused on that. You reinforce in the company. You let everybody know, like, hey, around here, we do things that are real. We do things that protect people from a metabolic standpoint. And our whole thing is we've had people come out of the woodwork, retailers, everybody saying, hey, this thing is on trend. We want you guys to make a product with your brand name, and this thing is on trend. Like, you guys would crush it. And we're like, to make that product, we'd have to compromise nutritionally. We're just not willing to do it. And so recognizing that you're turning down short-term money for the long-term gain. And that's just always been our focus.
Well, Tom, I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. I mean, it really means a lot to me. I've been a big fan of you and the company for a long time. So this is definitely like one of my favorite episodes. And I feel like I could talk to you for 3 or 4 hours, but I know you don't have the time. What's the best way for us to connect with you online?
Well, before I answer that, just want to thank you, and A, for having me on, and B, for being an ambassador for Quest. And, I know the cynical people out there will think that you had me on just because of that. But
Oh, definitely
hopefully, people really understand, like, we're so passionate about the people that have helped build this. And so I'm very, very grateful. If you want to find me online, at Tom Bilyeu, and my last name is spelled B as in Bravo, Ilyeu. I'm super active socially, and that name works across all socials, from YouTube to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Once again, really appreciate it. Wish you the best with your new company, Impact Theory. I've already signed up for the newsletter, and I look forward to getting into some of this content pretty soon.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you over there as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Take care.